Hey guys, Ian here, Fantastic Dimensions. Want to just talk a little bit about my Lamentations of the Flame Princess game last night. Unfortunately, there was a problem with Google Hangouts on Air or YouTube or both. I'm not sure where the error lied, but the video didn't record correctly. Only 3 minutes made it of the recording for some reason. When I noticed at the end of the Hangout, when I tried to click stop recording, it kept coming up with a message saying failed to stop, please try again, failed to stop, please try again, and it just would not stop recording. I know that the live stream was working because we had viewers, or a viewer at least anyway, almost all the way up to the very end, but for some reason anyway, we couldn't stop the recording, so we all left the Hangout, and the video did upload to my YouTube channel several hours later, but it was only 3 minutes and 12 seconds long, so I don't know what happened there. But anyway, it was a good session. None of the original campaign characters were present. The only original campaign player present, in fact, would have been Lloyd, who he's playing. You know, he's on his second character at this stage anyway. But and I also had John Peter Drury and Sean Vigvari from Gaming Beast 82, I think is his YouTube channel. I can't remember the number at the end of it. It's Gaming Beast anyway. So Sean got to play as well. It was his first time playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess. He had said something about, you know, old school D&D, wanting to play some old school D&D or something, and I said, well, why don't you play this Lamentations game? It's kind of like a basic D&D clone, so he tried it out. I think he had a good time. Essentially, the three characters were traveling along an unnamed road, an extremely long road, traveling on the southeast kind of side of this huge wetlands area. Some of it marsh, some of it swamp, some of it bog, whatever. Doesn't particularly matter. The important thing is this swampy type terrain off to the left side of this road as they kind of made their way northwest. And I had said that they were working their way towards Scotland on some kind of you know, messenger business or something for the Guardians of the Eternal Flame, the secret order that they're all members of. Not that that really matters, because that's not the meat of the story. It's just a device to get them on this road. For the past week, they had passed. They've been passing by villages with disturbing signs. These three villages or small towns that they had passed through over the past week were all devoid of any, you know, living human beings. In fact, the only human beings they found in the villages at all were all penned up, held up inside the church, barred in, and had passed away. No signs of trauma, seemingly having just, you know, starved or died of dehydration or whatever in these churches. You know, in some cases, several dozen of them even. But outside of the churches, there were no other people to be found. The towns and villages had all been stripped of anything of any kind of value or worth had been taken out of the town somewhere. And also any decent stone in the town, with the very exception of the actual churches themselves, which were not touched. But any other of the decent stone in the villages had been taken out as well. It was very strange. So on basically the 7th day of them passing along this road and finding all of these strangely abandoned villages, there was some graffiti, if you will, so some words painted on the walls of the last church that they had found that said, "It came from the sky, the end is nigh." And that's the title of the session, was "It Came from the Sky." So on the 7th day, they were cresting a hill and they saw another larger town up ahead, a walled town, and they could see actually smoke rising from several of the chimneys on one side of the town. Signs of life. Very good. So as they start to kind of make their way down towards the town, they hear musket fire from within, and they can see, you know, the puffs of smoke from where the muskets were being fired by one of the churches. This town was large enough that it had a church, two churches, one on the west side and one on the east side of town. And they saw puffs of smoke coming from what they assumed to be the muskets being fired near the church on the west side of town. So they made their way into the town to investigate. Getting to the western wall of the town, they found the gates to be wide open, nobody on guard. Very strange. They made their way into town and they found a few figures hurriedly moving away from the church where they had seen and heard the musket fire. And as one of them approached, he realized there was something not right about them. They weren't totally human or something unusual. One of them, there was 4 total, 2 of which were kind of carrying an injured companion between them, and the other which was kind of leading them. but then this one saw him coming because I think he called out to them, so if I recall correctly. So it stopped and turned, and it drew a saber to meet him. Now these creatures were my Lamentations versions of kind of bullywugs. They basically, aesthetically at least, are bullywugs, but you know, I make a few weird changes for Lamentations purposes. But yeah, so you're looking at a humanoid frog-like person, but he's wearing normal villager clothes, which was kind of unusual. He quickly managed to dispatch the creature. Sean's character, Jean-Christophe, unsuccessfully tried to shoot it with his musket. This was something that would repeat itself multiple times through the story. I think he fired that musket about 4 times before he ever hit anything, which was very frustrating for him because they take up to 10 rounds to reload or so. But they dispatched the first creature, and he realized, okay, well, there's something very strange here. This is not a man. So while the priest character, being played by John Drury, his character's name was Lothwin scurried off, kind of disappeared down the alleyway and started making his way towards the church where the gunfire had been seen, to make sure, being a man of the cloth and also pretty much a pacifist, he didn't have any weapons or armor. He wanted to make his way to the church and try to make sure that everybody was okay there, especially given the signs that they had seen in the previous towns. Lloyd's character, Wolfgang Schlossberger, if I pronounced that right, I probably didn't. Schlossberger, I don't know, I'm not very good at German names. He, being the noble and the fighter that he was, gave pursuit to the other 3 bullywug creatures that were moving away from him rapidly, caught them, killed the 2, and then took a slight wound himself in the process, and then dispatched the injured one as well, which was pretty much incapacitated, unable to defend itself. It had been shot in the upper torso by one of the muskets, apparently. Having dispatched them, Wolfgang and Jean-Christophe made their way back towards where they had last seen their friend Lothwin. Lothwin has made his way to the church and talked to the people inside. There was a few dozen people in there, mostly women and children and elderly, and the old priest. He did a healing spell and miraculously saved a young girl who was quite obviously dying of an infected wound, a knife wound across her face, which the mother had told her had been done by her father, who had been changing. So Lothwin quickly became a savior, almost like a hero, a miraculous appearance to these people, and he was a cleric. So his healing spell had saved the girl. They were asking for more, but he said, look, I've tapped my powers for the day. I can do more later, but I can't do any more now. He went back out into the town to find his friends, which he did, and they all went back to the church and regrouped, getting information, finding out that there was the people in the town had started to change ever since a flaming object had been seen. God, what did I say? I said it weeks before. A flaming object had fallen out of the sky. Maybe more than weeks, I can't remember if I even put a time limit on. But yeah, this flaming object had fallen out of the sky and crashed down somewhere in the huge marsh to the north and northwest of this town. And the people had started to act strange shortly thereafter. The sky where the object had fallen, the sky over the marsh in that area seemed to burn for days afterwards. Now this is, of course, you know, like some kind of a meteor fall or something along those lines, or maybe a spaceship crashing or something, you know. But to these, you know, primitive 17th century people, they just saw some ball of fire fall from the sky. The people explained to the adventurers that people had, you know, the people who in the town who were changing, they were becoming kind of violent and they were acting erratically. They started to gather under one particular leader, a very charismatic man by the name of Thomas, who also had gone through a very dramatic change and was now calling himself the High Priest, and had started a base basically at the church on the east side of town. And that's where these attacks seem to be coming from. That's where all these, you know, formerly human villagers who are now turning into these frog creatures were, you know, had their base of operations, where they launched their attacks on us, where they were gathering. The villagers in the church had holed themselves up pretty quickly and had been stuck in there for a long time. They were running out of food. They'd been out of water for over a day, and yeah, they were in dire straits. So the adventurers agreed to help Wolfgang needed to rest to try to recover a bit from his wound. So Jean-Christophe and Lofwin went to the center of town to try to get some water from the well to help these people in the church. They encountered more of the bullywug creatures. They managed to kill, I think they killed one. Then they were getting the water from the well. The water turned out to be really brackish and foul looking, and it had like a kind of a greenish viscosity to it. It didn't look healthy. So they decided to leave the water and head back to the church. They became separated because Lofwin moved on ahead after the encounter with the bullywug creature, and Jean-Christophe was in the process of reloading his weapon. What had happened, I seem to recall, is they incapacitated the creature. Lofwin did, in fact. He used the pole that was supposed to be used to carry the water. He'd used it as a quarterstaff, and he knocked the creature out. And Jean-Christophe decided to dispatch it with his rapier, even though Lofwin protested, said, "No, wait, don't kill it. It used to be a man. We may be able to change it back." And he got angry, and that's why Lofwin moved on ahead while Jean-Christophe was working on reloading his musket. He heard a sound behind him then, the priest being quite far off. So Jean-Christophe turned and fired his musket, killing one of the creatures, his first hit of the night with the musket. Killed one of the creatures, but found himself facing 5 more of them standing there calmly looking at him. And they said to him, "We are coming to the church tonight. The high priest Locrius is coming for you all." And then they disappeared. They ninja'd out of there. So he was meant to take this message back to the church and let them know that the end was indeed nigh, and that they were going to be coming that night. So they went back, they shared this information with Wolfgang, and they were trying to discuss what to do. Should they leave? Should they go to the church, kill the high priest, etc.? And I forgot to mention that Jean-Christophe had, by coming into contact with the skin of one of the creatures that he killed, he had become poisoned through like a sort of a contact type poison. And he was getting sweats. He was on the borderline of having hallucinations, but he made his kind of second save and was able to not have any freakish hallucinations. He kind of held himself together. However, at the same time, something protruded into the mind of Wolfgang and took him over for a few rounds, which was long enough for him to slash and kill Jean-Christophe in one motion. Slash and knock out Lofwin and kill the priest as well. In fact, he came to as the priest was the priest being the priest of the church, not the priest Lofwin. The priest, or vicar I should say, since it was an Anglican church, the vicar was trying to beat him with this Bible, trying to save his friends, and Wolfgang snapped out of it, sees this priest battering at him with the Bible, and kills him, starts looting the bodies, realizes Lofwin's alive, slings him over his shoulder, faces down the musket-bearing villagers who had been protecting the church. Everyone else had fled the church when Wolfgang went on his murder spree, so they were all running around the town, God only knows what's happening to them. The musketeers faced him. He managed to convince them that he had to kill them. They were being controlled by the frog creatures. They were acting strange. We got to get out of here. So he escaped the town with Lofwin over his shoulder and these 5 kind of musket-bearing villagers, townspeople. And that's pretty much where we left off. And now they had seen from the hillside above the town, they could see a major caravan heading into the swamps from the town. And they presumed that to be the high priest's caravan, the bullywug creatures going into the swamp, taking all the riches from the town. And they were left there deciding what would need to be done to end this evil. And that was it. So that's my recap. Sorry it took so long. I had a lot to say. I'm sorry that the video didn't work out. It was quite frustrating. But that's life with YouTube and Google Hangouts, I guess. Not much you can do about that. So we will resume again in a couple of weeks' time. I assume we will have reinforcements from the Order of the Eternal Flame coming to kind of see what can be done about this evil in the swamp. So in the meantime, I'm Ian. This is Fantastic Dimensions, and I will see you at the gaming table.